Top five favorite picks. No rules here. We're going to go in order. You get one, I get one. If your number one pick is my number five pick, that's okay. We can explain. I'm not including quarterbacks, but you can
Me
if you
neither.
would like.
No,
Okay,
I
good.
didn't either. I'm staying. I mean,
Very
come
good.
on. I mean, we talk about quarterbacks. That's all we
I
freaking
know,
do.
right?
So
Yeah,
I'm glad you're doing that. Way to go, man.
excellent. Yeah. I took the liberty of just scratching that off and made that a rule for myself. So now we make it a rule for the duo here. Okay, number one favorite pick in the draft. Who do you got?
It's tough, but I think I'm going to go C.D. Lamb to the Dallas Cowboys. That would be my number one pick. The fact that he was sitting there on the board at 17, and I think it's just such a special, dynamic player who we've seen perform at such a high level for 3 years in a row against no matter who the competition is. His freshman year against Georgia, the next year in the Final Four, this past year, what we saw him do against LSU. I just think this is a phenomenal talent, a can't miss prospect. I really love the player, and Dallas got a steal. Dallas, Jerry Jones, I just read a quote. I mean, he was the number 6 player on their board. So, I mean, Jerry's really old, but he might have done what the hell are they called? A
Somersault?
somersault, not
Backflip?
a summer, or
Handstand?
the cartwheel, whatever the hell they're
Cartwheel.
called. He did something like that when he was like, "What? C.D. Lamb's on the board at 17? I'll take it. Sold."
He might have if he wasn't so comfortable on that white leather couch in his home theater
Beautiful
there. I mean,
couch. Yes.
right?
Yes.
He didn't want to remove himself from there. Okay, my number one favorite pick. I'm going to go all the way down bottom of the first or near the bottom. The Baltimore Ravens getting Patrick Queen, inside
Good for
linebacker
you.
from LSU. And here's the reason why. I remember very well sitting down to watch a national championship game. And like you, I'm there mainly to watch the quarterback and maybe also to watch the receivers. And there was a linebacker for LSU that kept showing up with the speed from sideline to sideline and then striking with some anger when he was getting to the ball carrier. About second quarter, I'm like, who is this guy? And I wish I would have said it at the time, Chris. I didn't say, you know what, inside linebacker is a kind of pick that goes later in the first round. I bet the Ravens end up with this guy. I wish I would have said that, but I didn't. And it's just perfect that the Ravens end up with that kind of difference maker, that kind of talent there at the bottom of round one. So that's my first guy.
That's all. I mean, he's a Raven. I mean, it fits, right? It just seems like
Yeah.
the attitude, the ferociousness in which he plays. They got all these big people in front of him, and now he can just go
Yes.
attack the ball. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I'm with you. It didn't make my top 5, but it was on my next group
Honorable
down. I'm a
mention.
big fan. Honorable mention.
There
My
you go.
number 2, I'm going K'Lavon Chaisson with the Jacksonville Jaguars at 20. I thought K'Lavon Chaisson was right on the border of being one of the 10 best players in the draft. So I love the player. I mean, he's 20 years old. He's only going to get stronger and faster. I think he's the most natural pass rusher in the draft. I mean, I know Chase Young is the most talented, but I think when it comes to bend, spin moves, variety of moves, and just built to be a pass rusher, K'Lavon Chaisson is that, let alone it's the perfect scheme match. I mean, again, Jacksonville runs the Seattle defensive scheme, right? Seattle won Super Bowls with great pass rushers. Jacksonville was good a few years ago with great pass rushers. 49ers, same scheme, great pass rushers. So it just makes Los Angeles Chargers, great pass rushers, same scheme. So from that standpoint, I just think it's a killer combination.
My second favorite pick, Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver, going to the Broncos. And it's not just about the player. I always like to remind myself every pick in the first round doesn't live in a bubble. Think about it in a chunk. Take a step back and
Yeah.
look at what that GM has done recently in the offseason, the last 2 drafts. You go back 2 years ago, Chris, the Denver Broncos didn't have Drew Lock. They didn't have Melvin Gordon. They didn't have Philip Lindsay. They didn't have Noah Fant, Cortland Sutton, or Jerry Jeudy. So in 2 years, they've kind of put together this very nice, promising nucleus of offensive skill players. The way Drew Lock did a nice job last December when he got to be the starting quarterback. They won 4 or 5 games. So I like what they're doing there with that little group inside of that building. And I also like what they're chasing. They're chasing the Chiefs. They didn't score a touchdown against them last December. And by adding a very good receiver, they give themselves a better chance to compete with what they're chasing there in their own division.
No doubt. Listen, it's easy to fall in love with what that group is right there. You're right. I mean, it's about what their offense is now in totality that is
Right.
very special. And I like that too, Paul. I mean, I really do. And I guess what I want to say a little bit just off of what you said is, people bag on John Elway, the GM, sometimes, and I don't like it, nor do I get it. I don't get it. You know, is there any other GMs that have been to two Super Bowls outside of New England in the last decade other than John Schneider? No. Been to a few AFC championship games to go along with that. The Denver Broncos have been a very, very good football team throughout John Elway's tenure. I know the last 2 years haven't been great, but damn, I mean, you can't be great for like 10 years straight. At some point, you got to take a step back and rebuild the team. And I think he's done that in a hurry between the players you mentioned. A.J. Bouye making a trade for him this offseason. Jarrell Casey, Bradley Chubb in the draft 2 years ago, who didn't even play last year. So Denver is one of those teams that's on the rise, and I'd say watch out for.
And just consider this too, Chris, before we move on to number three. Think about how much better the players inside that building would be if they had his motivation, that picture of you succeeding as a Denver Bronco that you stole and you now
Yeah,
have in the
right.
basement.
You're funny. You're a funny guy.
That's worth a winner too, maybe.
Maybe. I doubt it. Maybe they could have used it as a dartboard or something to beat the shit out of, something like that.
Even better. Okay,
My
your
number
third
three,
favorite pick.
I'm going to go Isaiah Simmons to the Cardinals at number 8. Again, I hate the draft sometimes because everybody gets over analytical. Hey, sometimes let's just take the guy that's really big and fast and makes a lot of plays on the football field and causes disruption and has all the physical tools, and we see it on film and have the evidence to know when you pick a position for him, he's going to be able to do it. And that to me, I just was wondering if anybody was going to pick Isaiah Simmons, my top linebacker, in the top 10. I thought everybody might get a little scared. Oh, I don't know what position to play him at. Hey, doesn't matter. Get him close to the line of scrimmage at the second level. Let him go find the ball. He can do it all. This is not like some, athletic, soft type player. There's physicality there. There's great instincts. And there's a lot of versatility in what he can do at that second level for your defense. So I really love that pick.
Another player you like brings me to my third favorite, Javon Kinlaw, going to the San Francisco 49ers. And I'm basing a lot of it on listening to you and how much you liked him and almost had him as the number one guy at that position. And it goes back to this theme that you and I have been talking about and patting people on the back for doing it this way. San Francisco became San Francisco the last year and a half because of their defensive line. And maybe he's not as good as DeForest Buckner. Maybe he's a shadow of that, but at least they recognize what made them special, and they went and got somebody really, really good at that spot. And I just, had a quiet little applause there on my couch for the teams that did that last night.
Yeah, yeah. Those are big time moves. I mean, for them to have the vision of trading DeForest Buckner away, and like you're saying, getting basically another DeForest Buckner at that pick, with yes, on a part of their team that was a truly elite unit across the board in the NFL. Yeah, and I'll second you with this, Paul. I think Kinlaw is better than DeForest Buckner was coming out of Oregon.
Wow.
I do. Yeah. I mean, this is an ass kicker. So my buddy Kyle Shanahan, he was sitting there at 14, and I bet you he was having a tough time because I know my buddy likes CeeDee Lamb too. And he had CeeDee Lamb and Javon Kinlaw on the board, and he was probably going, damn, what the hell do I do? But Kinlaw just too big, physical, powerful to pass up. So I like that one by you. I'm all with you. Hey, my number 4, I'm going to Justin Jefferson. Somebody you hit on. But just to get him was my second favorite receiver in the draft. I think he is like a can't-miss prospect. Even if he fails, he's going to be like 85 receptions a year. But I think he's going to be a guy that can get 100, 105, 110, and make more plays with the ball in his hands than a guy like Michael Thomas can. And, most people think Mike Thomas is the best receiver in football. So, to echo what you said, to get Justin Jefferson, such a big need for that football team, and then to get him at, what was that, pick 22, that is damn special to me.
You mentioned the Saints, and I'm going to the Saints at number 4, what they did at 24. Cesar Ruiz, the number 1 interior offensive lineman in this class. We'll see if they play him at center or guard, but I think about it this way. I mean, Drew Brees is going to play 1, maybe 2 more years. You can say what you want about is he as good as he was 3 or 4 years ago. His presence there still gives them a chance to be a 12, 13, 14 win team.
Definitely.
And what's one of the things he's really, really good at? Senses pressure from the outside and steps up. So if you're thinking as a defensive coordinator and you want to get after him, maybe you bring that pressure from up the middle. Make the middle of your offensive line better. You've strengthened the part of your team that gives you reason to think you can play in late January anyway. So that's my 4th favorite one.
No doubt. A little bit of what you just said with the 49ers, right? I mean, they addressed their strength of their team and kept it strong to where it's like it's a force to be reckoned with on a weekly basis. The Saints offensive line is one of the 5 best offensive lines in football. I mean, they got a big-time tackle in Teron Armstead. Ryan Ramczyk is in the conversation for best right tackle in football with Lane Johnson. They got good guard play with Andrus Peat. And now you got a center or a guard, like you're saying, with Ruiz. That's impressive. And Sean Payton likes to run the football. We can't forget that.
Right.
2 years ago, they were one of the 5 best running teams in the sport. So I'm with you, man. There's something to be said about having a part of your team that's a game changer. And that's a game changer for the Saints because teams go, damn, what do we do against this great offensive line? They really compromise you in a lot of different ways. So good pick by you. My last one, I'm going with Clydro because that's his nickname. He told me Clydro, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Okay.
And I want to say this, Chris. I want to say this, and I'll let you go because if you say it, it's different if it comes from me. He was your number 1 running back, and he was the first one off the board. And you said in your mock that he would go to the Chiefs. So 1, 2, you hit them both. Now go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for being my hype man. I appreciate that, Don King. You the man, okay? Yes, I fell in love with the player, with what I saw on film. I got to interview him earlier this week. I fell in love with him some more. So I got a man crush on him because of what I see on film. I mean, I see, Barry Sanders, Brian Westbrook type quickness, breaking ankles all over the place. Start, stop, back up to full speed in 3 steps. Unbelievable route runner. Incredible strength and power for his size between the tackles. Yes, to me, again, it's funny. It's the same theme we just talked about with some of these other guys. They have an elite unit on their football team. Kansas City wins games with their offense. Don't try to change all of a sudden and go, we're going to be a defensive team. No, just keep being the Kansas City Chiefs. Put pressure on everybody with your offense and your weapons and this great quarterback. And it really dictates the pace of the game more weeks than not because other teams have to adjust because they go, holy shit, our offense, we got to push the envelope because we got to keep pace with Patrick Mahomes and company. Our defense, we're going to have to do some different things in this game. We have no chance to stop them unless we do a few things that might be out of our comfort zone. And to me, there's greatness in that. So I love the pick by the Chiefs.
And hey, by the way, the only reason I didn't have that as one of my 1, 2, or 3 picks was out of respect to you and the fact that you had him there as your number 1 and to the Chiefs. So I wanted to leave that space to you. But he's certainly on my honorable mention as well. Yes, my 5th and final favorite pick, I'm going offensive line with the Cleveland Browns. Jedrick Wills, the tackle. And this is for a couple of reasons. You can clearly see the plan that Andrew Berry brought in. They prioritized tackle on both sides. They got Conklin from the Titans. And now with their first-round pick, they use one on Jedrick Wills. So they took care of what they prioritized there in the offseason. I like that. And I got tired last year of bagging on Baker Mayfield. I mean, he wasn't playing well. The team was a disappointment. He wasn't handling himself that well in the postseason press conferences. I would love to see him play well. I think it'd be fun for the league to have Baker Mayfield be a couple notches better than he was last year. So I applaud that pick.
No doubt. And this was an issue. When they played teams with really good defensive lines, again, doesn't always get talked about when we break down quarterbacks. And yeah, Baker Mayfield did not have his best year. It wasn't as good as his rookie year. But there was issues with pass protection throughout the year that did affect his play and his decision making at times too. So yeah, they killed it with that pick. And now you got two studs on both edges, like you're talking about. They got a top 5 running back. We know about the receivers, good tight ends. I mean, yeah, I'm with you, and I want Cleveland to be good. I
Yeah,
want a new fresh look in the NFL, and I like
yeah.
those players. And there's a lot to admire about the Cleveland fan base and all of that. So I'm with you, Paul. That was a great one.